This wave coming towards us. What happens next? I know I'm climbing, I'm running. I climb up this wall and I get right up to the top of it. And right as I get to the top, the visitors from Atlantis, scoop me up into the ball, that energy transfer device that takes me to them. Do you see the wave or do you leave before it comes? I see everything. They make me see everything. I see that terrified child and what happened to him so clearly. From your perspective now, can you see what that child's full life was like? Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Just Being Me. I'm so glad you're here with me today because what you're about to hear will ripple through you in surprising ways. In this episode, we're jumping into chapter 11 of A Hypnotist's Journey to Atlantis by Sarah Brexman Cosme. Now, Sarah isn't just an author. She's a master hypnotist, a level 3 QHHT practitioner following the work of Dolores Cannon. She spent over a decade guiding people into past lives to uncover truths that transcend time. Her storytelling stitches Atlantis and Lemuria into modern awareness, revealing how remembering our origins can be deeply healing. Today, the story I'll be sharing with you guys is discussing the wave that destroyed Lemuria, or Amun, however it's pronounced. I don't know. I might screw that one up a few times, but I feel like there's a good message there, and possibly some healing for a lot of people. So, if you like what you're about to hear and want to hear more or read more, the link to the book is in the description below. I do plan on doing 2 more chapters from this book, so stay tuned for those, and I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. With many clients recounting their own stories of the wave that flooded their beloved island, surprisingly, the descriptions are uncannily the same. Danielle came to see me for a session because she felt stuck. She was sick of the mundane life she had and felt there was another calling for her that she never quite tapped into. Danielle also wanted to understand a strange phobia of the water that she had felt her whole life. She felt compelled to see me and ask her subconscious for answers. This is Danielle's session. What do you become aware of? The ground is lush. It's very green. There are flowers, many flowers. There are pink and green and yellow and white. Tell me more. They look very tropical. It's warm here, but not humid. There's a breeze and it smells fresh and clean. What does this place look like? Can you tell me more about it? It's very green with many flowers and trees and hills, not really mountains, but hills, big rolling hills. Where are these hills? Off in the distance, there's a beach as well. What does this beach look like? The beach is beautiful. It's full of smooth pebbles and blue water. Is it rough or calm? It's very calm. It's like a beach bay. We're on an island, so there's water all around. The sand looks like small gray pebbles. It's not very sandy, but smooth, so it doesn't hurt your feet. Look down at your body and tell me what your feet look like. They're women's feet, light brown. What about the bottom part of your body? What are you wearing on the bottom part? My legs are bare, but I'm wearing a small skirt. It's just a wrap. What does it feel like it's made out of? A beautiful light fabric. It's warm where we are. Does it have a color, this fabric? It's bright yellow. What about the top part of your body? Just a small wrap top. It matches the bottom. My hair is brown and long and wild. What about your eyes? They're brown too. My face is very fine with pretty features and a flatter type nose. I seem to have some jewelry on, some rings and bracelets. What does it look like they're made out of? It looks like gold and leather. Where do you live in this place? I live in a house that's kind of round, like a hut but sturdier. It's not made of soft materials, it's made of stone and has a thatched roof. We all live together. I live here with my family. Tell me more about them. I have a mate and a baby, a daughter. The rest of my family lives near me. All of the huts are together. They're not spread out. What does your mate do during the day? He fishes and brings fish to the market. How do you feel about him? I love him. Tell me more about your baby. I love her. She's beautiful. She's little. Who lives in the huts near you? Parents and grandparents, brothers and sisters. I can see them outside of my window. You have a window? Tell me more about it. What does the window look like it's made out of? It just opens and has a shutter that's made out of the same materials as the roof. Do you have a bed in your hut? We do. We have nice furniture made of some type of tree wood. It's very comfortable. It's carved, beautiful, and intricate. What do you enjoy doing there? Getting together with others. We laugh and we dance. The men go fishing and work. I work too. I help people. I'm kind of a doctor or shaman. Tell me about that. I help women have their babies and help people when they're in pain. Tell me more about what you do when they're in pain. I do whatever they need. I have herbs. What type of herbs? We have many herbs that we grow and have access to. We can make a poultice, so if someone is in pain or has a fever, I can give them a tincture or a tonic. How do you know how to do this? Were you taught by someone? I was trained by my mother and her mother trained her. What is your favorite tincture that seems to be most effective? Well, you can use comfrey and things, and that's very effective, or oregano. There's so many to choose from. Our land has so many things available. How do you make these things? I pick them, then I boil the roots of the herbs or the actual herbs, and then I heat them up. Once I heat them up, then I distill them down, and then I have little jars that I keep them in. Say someone has a virus, what do you use for that? I would say oregano kills viruses, but our people don't get sick very often. Most of the things that we're treating are injuries or cuts. We're very healthy and we really don't have viruses or long-term illnesses. You know why? Most likely because they were very tied to the earth. You have a pretty good diet of earthly things, and as you see, they use herbs and things from the earth to heal everyone. So yeah, let's get back to it. That's an awesome thing. Do you get a sense as to why your people are so healthy? I feel as if we have some sort of immunity to things, but it could be perhaps because we don't experience that much stress here. There's plenty of food and water available to us, and that makes us more relaxed. What do you do when a woman is having a baby? We get them prepared. We coach them through their birthing process and make sure the head is down. How do you do that? We just know there's a way to tell if the baby's head is down or feet down and using your hand to see. You can put your hands on the belly and even spin the baby if it's in the wrong direction. What happens when someone dies on your island? We have a ceremony for them and we put them on a raft that we make and put them out to sea. Do you prepare the body for the ceremony? We clean the body, then dress them and anoint them with oils and perfumes as well as flowers, but we don't do anything that invasive. How do people in your community view death? We believe that this is just one time on earth, and then you go back to the spirit realm, and then you may come back. But we believe you may come back as a different species, like an eagle or a bear. It doesn't always have to be human. What is the grief process like there? We don't grieve that much. We miss them, but we understand that part of life. I mean, I know that. And with knowing that, it doesn't make dealing with death easier. So, yeah, I mean, what type of ceremonies, if any, do you have there? We celebrate many things. We celebrate birth and we support one another. It's very supportive, and we're always with one another in our family tribe. Our family tribe is made up of all of our people, not just family. We love one another. There isn't any competition here. We help one another and take care of one another. We ensure the safety of everyone's babies and we protect one another. Now that is dope. And it's really not that far off. If you think about it, we may not feel that way about everybody as individuals, but there are definitely probably more than likely not, there's at least somebody, if not your whole circle of friends that you deal with all the time, there's somebody that you love them no matter what. Like you're cheering them on. There's nothing that person can get that would cause you jealousy. You just want to see that person succeed. And the more they get, the more you're happy for them. Everyone has that one person, if not everyone in their circle, So just imagine spreading that out to everyone that you meet. Your immediate thought is that person that I've never met before is not in competition with me, but rather a part of me. They're like me. So if I cause harm to them, I'm causing harm to myself. Or, it's a great way to view the world. Let's continue. How would you describe what most of the men are like there? They're gentle and loving. Is there anything else important or interesting about what you're looking at right now? No. Okay, let's leave that scene and move ahead in time to where something important is happening. Be there now. What do you become aware of? Danielle started to breathe heavy and tears started flowing down her face. There's a lot of water coming from the ocean and it's coming in fast. Everything is going underwater. Danielle started to become so upset that at this point I told Danielle she could view this as an observer if she liked to. What does it look like? It looks like a massive wave that takes everything. What happens next? Sobbing, I see my mate floating by, face down in the water. I'm grabbing my baby, then the wave comes and we struggle to get our heads above the water. But I knew that I just had to relax and go with it. We die together. We all die. The island was completely covered. The water just completely enveloped it and it's just gone. Man, could you imagine? I know there are some people who can actually imagine. Fortunately, I've never been in that situation. I just couldn't imagine. Just couldn't do it. At this point, Danielle took in a deep breath and almost looked as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. What do you notice now? I realize that we have drowned, but I still feel alive. It feels as if we just shed our bodies. Danielle started crying again. My baby and mate are here. We're okay. Everyone is okay. Tell me more. What's happening? We're just looking around a little in shock. We feel alive, but with no body. I'm sad, but it feels different, like a heaviness. Now that is the first time I've heard of someone feeling emotions on the other side. I've seen a lot of, or listened to a lot of out of body experiences or near death experiencers where they explain, their experience where they died and then they left their body and they could see their body either on the ground or wherever they died at. And, they see their body and recognize it, but they don't feel any connections to it. It's like the emotions of it all is gone, except some people say they feel like a love for their body. Maybe that's that. Thank you for allowing me, your vessel, to experience this human life. But now it's on to the next one type thing. But maybe you will feel that sadness, but it feels a little heavy. Like she said, it feels like a heaviness. Maybe that's something that comes with traumatic deaths. Who knows? I definitely don't, but we'll see. Let's go. I feel as if we're floating now. You're floating? Do you float together? Yes. We're floating away from that life, looking down as I float up. I can see that this island was huge, actually. It looks like it was in the South Pacific. Now it's just under the water. Now that you've left that lifetime and can look at it from a different perspective, could you tell me what the purpose or lesson was that you were learning in that lifetime? The purpose of that life was to work as a healer, healing people, and being of service is an important part of my life. I realized that I saw that life because this is the work that I should do in this life. I also realized where my phobia of water came from because I feel it releasing from me. Wow, this is incredible. The phobia was just a catalyst for me to come here, for me to look inward, and that way it was valuable. However, it's gone now. Hey, there's that healing miracle. I've heard many stories like this, and there are many more stories like this in this book. So, if you're experiencing something, going through something, have a fear of something, or maybe your heart is tugging at you while you're listening to the story, maybe there's a reason. Maybe you were there too, or something. A good old regression session could be what you need. Now, here are some thoughts from the author before she moves on to the next story. I'm always amazed at the wisdom that is given to the client during these sessions and the strategically placed lifetime that is shown to them. It is interesting how the past can affect the present, but only as a valuable trigger to allow the client to look inward and move toward the healing and understanding that is needed. There are many people around the globe with these same unexplainable fears of drowning and of water that stems from this wave that once erased their treasured land. I later worked with Jen to recover her own memories of that fateful day when Amun, Lemuria, somebody help. I later worked with Jen to recover her own memories of that fateful day when Lemuria saw its last moments above the water. Her memories detailed below may be shocking and unsettling, and trust me, they are. Like, whew. When I was reading this the first time through, I was definitely like, whew, I was feeling it. Like, ugh. You'll see. Let's go. It was the first good day that we had in 2 days, and the sun came out that morning. There was a knock at my bedroom door very early in the morning, earlier than I'm used to getting up. It was barely morning, and the sun had not risen yet, and instead of the expected flooding at the beaches, I was told that the water had gone. I couldn't understand how the water could be gone since it had done nothing but rain for days. I quickly put on some clothes, grabbed my very long staff, the non-ceremonial one, my weapon. She grabbed the stick. She grabbed the stick. Literally. All right, the non-ceremonial one, my weapon. And I left my child with my grandmother. I took about 5 or 6 guards with me, ones that had been with me for many years, and they led me down to the beach. We got there just as the sun was coming up. It was dark at first, so we couldn't see the full extent of the receding waters. There were many children and confused fishermen looking at their boats that had toppled over to one side. They were very upset and exasperated. They didn't know what they were going to do. The children of these fishermen were trying to run around and catch all of the fish that were flopping on the dry land. The sun is coming up, and I could fully see the extent of the water receding, and it was very creepy to look at. It was unsettling, and it didn't look natural, and everyone is reacting to it around me. Everyone is unsettled. Yeah. And at this point, like the whole build up to it, me just imagining everyone there, wondering what in the hell happened to all the water, not knowing what's coming. But you and I know what's coming. If you're watching this today, you know what's coming following that. And the goosebumps that was building up for me coming up to this point, it's like, oh my God, they have no idea. And I'm just yelling, run, 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 run. But they just don't know. All right, so here we go. What happens next? I see this kid point out to the water, and he looked terrified. He had the most terrified look that I had ever seen on his face. I look over to see what he's pointing at, and I see this wave coming towards us. What happens next? I know I'm climbing, I'm running. I climb up this wall, and I get right up to the top of it. And right as I get to the top, the visitors from Atlantis, scoop me up into the ball, that energy transfer device that takes me to them. Do you see the wave, or do you leave before it comes? I see everything. They make me see everything. I see that terrified child and what happened to him so clearly. From your perspective now, Can you see what that child's full life was like? The child that I saw on the beach was about 7 years old. He had a very simple life. I could see that he wore clothes that were made of loose linen, a grayish colored linen, and they were very loose on him. He was playing with his little brother who was about 3, no more than 3. They were both running around gathering the fish, and at 7 and 3 years old, they would still get up with their father every morning and they would travel with him to the shore. And the 7-year-old boy would play with the little boy for a few hours at the shore in the shade every day. They would wait for their father to return with the day's catch. And when he returned, they would help. They would help separate the fish. The father would teach the children how to separate the fish into what was good and what was to be thrown back. Then they would help pull in the nets. They were very strong for their age. They would pull these nets to town. Did they go to school there? Yes, they would also go to school. They always had options for children to learn writing, reading, and the basics of astronomy. Now that is dope. To learn astronomy, to learn astronomy at a young age, like you're essentially teaching the child how to navigate the world. Because if you learn the stars and where they are in relation to the Earth, you're pretty much a You're pretty much a walking GPS. There you go. The classes were done in the afternoon hours of the day into the evenings, and the children would be sent home when the sun would set. Was it a school? There were small buildings that were made. They looked like huts almost. There were a lot of open walls and thatched roofs so that it would stay cool for the children. But they would gather there and they would meet with people who had been deemed educated enough that they could be teachers to these children. The teachers would be assigned and paid extra. They would be given food, grain, or would have a certain agreement with fishermen or farmers. Sometimes they would supplement their income with food and housing in exchange for doing the service. Sounds pretty fair. It's kind of like what we're doing with money nowadays, just with services. What did the language look like? Can you see? It looks like it has a lot of loops and flow to it. A lot of C's with a dot in the middle. Angles connected to half C's and sharp 90-degree angles connected to them. Also, there were a lot of hooks connected to the letters. It looks very beautiful and very elegant. And it looks very hard to read, but it's actually a very simple language. It doesn't take much for the young children to learn and read and write. It isn't very difficult. It is a very basic but profound language where one word can mean many things. So these boys that you saw, they helped their father during the day and they also help by pulling the nets into town? Yes. And they have gathering places in the villages and towns that populate our lands. And in these centers, they would bring their daily catch so people could come and purchase the fish that they would like for their lunch and dinner. Or instead of purchase, they would trade. Trade was the most popular method. Do they have anyone who sells grains there or anything like that? They have linen bags filled with a grain, more like a round granule that was tannish in color and rough around the edges. It needs to be boiled for many hours with the water changed twice before you eat it. Where do the kids live? Do they live with their father and mother or just their father? They have a father and a mother and 3 other sisters who spend their time with their mother assisting with her chores and her needs for the household. Those children who were swept up by the wave, tell me more about that. The look on that boy's face when he sees the wave approaching it looks like he dies when he sees the wave, not when the water hit him. Could you tell me more about that? The life got sucked from him as he stood there dead, frozen in horror. The wave was so big, hundreds of feet tall. His little mind already knew that that was it, that his body was about to be demolished. Hundreds of feet tall. It said that wave was hundreds of feet tall. Could you imagine? Not 100, hundreds. That could be up to 700 feet tall. I just see, man, I could just imagine. I can only imagine that had to be terrifying. The little one grabs his brother's hand and it looks like he tries to pull him and he just starts crying as the wave smashes into both of them and crashes them against the rock wall that was in front of us. What happened to them afterwards? What happened to their souls after they died? They wandered for a long time. They were very unsure of what had just happened and very confused. And it looks like the younger one is still he's in a new body, but he's very stuck and very afraid of water. So that means he's alive, or this person is alive now. Just because it was a boy in that lifetime does not mean it's a boy or a man in this one. Could be a woman. So if you're out there, hope this message gets to you. And I hope you find some healing from it. He feels very codependent on people because of this. What could help this soul? They are destined to read this book, and when they do, it will resonate with them on a deep level, and they will understand and begin the process of healing. If there are many tragedies throughout history, are there many people that are stuck somewhere? There are many who are continuously stuck, even when they unstick themselves. So it's a cyclical thing with humans. Why? I see it as a very integral part of evolution, like a yin to the yang. It has to be done. It has to happen in order for us to grow and develop from it. So it's the instigator almost, the motivation to find out what's wrong. Yes. However, it is not sad on the other side. You're removed from human emotion over there. Now that's what I was talking about before, as far as being, seeing your body and being detached from any emotions and all of that stuff. That's what I was talking about before. Continuing on, let's see. You were saying before that a lot of souls are trapped right now because of the destruction of Lemuria and Atlantis. Yes, many. While that part of them is still trapped, they chose to be reborn at this time. Now is the time for this information to return and act as a seed, thrown into the mind that creates an understanding, healing, and a freedom for those people. How long ago was the fall of Lemuria? 25,000 years ago. There are many similarities to what is going on now and what happened then, and the similarities are surfacing for a very specific reason. It is to break down that trauma and allow people to be free of this. Let me comment on the similarities, because there are a lot of them. Like I was reading this book and thinking, I found myself thinking like, oh man, that's happening right now. That's kind of like what's happening right now. That's kind of like what this person is doing and that person. Like, it's crazy. The cycle of life, like, yes, human life is a cycle. And most people hear cycle and they think of a circle, but it's really not a circle. It's more of a spiraling circle because, there's a start and then there's an end, but the end isn't necessarily the end. And then you end at a higher level. So your restart begins at a higher level and goes up and up and up. I probably did a horrible job at explaining that, but you get the point. Is there anything else important about your experience during the flood? The water rose up, but the Atlanteans rose me up first. I was almost in a bubble that they had suspended. I couldn't get out of it. They wanted me to see everything. I watched this wave, this huge wave that just came out of nowhere. It was so big and the water was just terrible. It was so powerful you could feel the energy of it, ready to just come crashing down and just smother everything. And that's what happened when the first wave came down and just smashed everything. It smashed stones, wood, people, and body parts. It just blew everything everywhere and it crumpled the whole coastline immediately. Then the water, it had to have been about 15 feet deep, just kept quickly trickling in and people got covered in water. You wouldn't see them anymore. These people were just trampling over each other and taking babies, trying to hold them up in the air as if someone would just grab them. And then they would get sucked under as well. Or the babies would get pulled out of their arms and you would just see them screaming and screaming. The screaming, you could just hear the screaming everywhere. It just didn't stop. Then there was a second wave that came. I mean, really? That 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 foot wave that you sent to that island wasn't enough. You had to send another one? Talk about mutually assured death. I don't even know if that would be mutual, because that would be an agreement between two parties. And since the people of Lemuria didn't agree to that, that wouldn't make it a mutual. But two, for real? Like, I guess. I guess someone's like, when you want to get a job done, you got to do it yourself. and overdo it. Like, geez. Then there was a second wave that came from the other direction, and it met the other wave and turned into a huge blob of death, just flowing over the land. When the two waves met, it looked like it created a bit of a whirlpool in the middle where it just sucked people into the circles and they never came out. How did the island sink? The outer rim of the island was higher up than the center of the island, and when the water came crashing in, it caused the island to sink. Is there any of this island visible today, or is it all underwater? There are parts of the southeastern island that are still above water, but you'll see just the rim of the island in certain places. I mean, just seeing that rim of that island would be pretty bucket list-ish for me. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Although I wouldn't expect to see much based on the description, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. Sounds like it would be pretty nostalgic to see that and actually know what took place in that land. I might have to make that trip one day, and I don't even know where I'm going. Where? In the South Pacific or in smaller islands close to Thailand and the Philippines. Easter Island was once part of our land. Are there remnants of the island underwater anywhere? Underwater, yes. There would still be a lot of rock structures, but it wouldn't be in order. It would be very weathered and tumbled and heaped. You would recognize it as something, but you really wouldn't be able to say what it was. Were there any survivors on the outskirts? There were some. A lot of them were warriors who were in the boats that were leaving or had been out looking at some of these other places where they had colonies being set up. Where was that? Places like Vietnam or China. Where did the survivors go after the destruction? There were people who left from the south side of the island and they sailed in the direction of what is now California. It took them about 2 months to get there safely. What did they eat? Were they prepared at all? No, and they barely had enough to eat. They were able to fish, but they had to ration the water very carefully, and they received some rainfall on the way over. It was deemed a miracle that they survived. They wouldn't have lasted that long normally, so they felt that their survival was a miracle. Why did they survive? Did someone help them? Part of their belief system was that they were chosen to survive and that it was the guiding light of the gods that brought them there. What happened when they got there? They found many natural entrances and cave openings in that mountain where they had eventually made homes for themselves. Why did they feel the need to go underground? It was less underground and more above ground than they had ever been when they had lived on our continent. It was highly elevated there, so they didn't see it as an underground situation, but as a natural defense system that they never had before. Did they feel as if they were still in danger? That became part of their DNA in many ways, that natural sense of distrust. Are there remnants of them still now? You will find remnants of that civilization, but it won't be in the numbers that it once was. Are there still people living there that are descendants from that island? There are, but it's very difficult for the untrained eye to see them. Why is that? They're very good at maneuvering through their system of caves and tunnels. What do the people look like now that live there? They have gotten whiter as a result of living underground, and they've also gotten slightly smaller, stouter, and smarter. Did their hair color change, or is it still the same? No, it is still very similar to how it was. It tends to be very curly, but every now and then there are still 1 or 2 children who are born with a streak of white or blonde in their hair. What do the people that still live in these mountainous caverns in California do now? They have their own set of rules in that society, and it's very basic. They spend a lot of time getting food. What did they look like? You would recognize them as being a human being. They would look different than you or I, but you wouldn't look at them and think they were aliens. You would just think they were from a different part of the world. How did they evolve? Over time, they were able to bring back some of their culture. After the resettling and trauma was set aside, they tried to recreate with the same sense of compassion and bravery that they had. Growing food became a big challenge. How did they grow food in a mountain? They created systems underground that grew mushrooms and diverted trickles of water through the inside of the mountain. That was how they received their fresh water and watered these things. But it's a heavy diet of things that could be grown in low light areas. Is there anything else about them that seems interesting or important? When they first explored the mountain, they found within this mountain an open room of calm. This room of calm was put into place by one of the earliest set of colonizers to this planet. That's pretty interesting. You know, for this to be 25,000 years ago, there was something else put there before then. Yeah, I mean, life's infinite. These survivors, as well as the colonists before them, were able to step inside this one area, and it was very calming to anyone who stepped into it, almost like a dimensional plane where you could recharge. The survivors also found crystals inside there as well, and that brought back a lot of the traditions that we had with our crystals. And by using them, it kept those traditions strong. What kind of traditions did they do with the crystals? The traditions were mostly the ability to connect back with our ancestors, and the survivors kept transmissions within these crystals, and information was stored in them as well. Tell me more about that. Yes, they were able to gain a certain enlightenment using these crystals and communicating with the home planet. They were also able to touch these crystals and feel calm and steady, which helped tremendously at that time of so much uncertainty. When they went into this room, it became a circular room of peace. In it, they could meditate and they could bring themselves back to center. Can people do this now? Is this cave available to the public? It hasn't been seen. It's very hidden. Where is it hidden? Close to the top, but still deep inside. There's a little bit of light that comes in from above. There's a lot of this mountain that people don't get to see. Anything else important about this mountain? There's something green there, like an algae that grows. It comes from inside one of the caves. The room has a soft green glow. What was this green algae with the green glow used for? For lights. They were able to manipulate bioluminescence with crystals and water. It gives off a green glow. At first they used fire, but because of the exhaust, they couldn't bring burning objects too far in. Once they discovered the strange algae that glowed, they started using that instead, even though some of the tunnels have openings that let some light through. That's pretty awesome, and it's not the first time I've heard about like glowing walls type thing. You know, I've heard about other places on Earth that's, let's say, hidden to the public, but have been discovered. Let's just leave it at that. But yeah, there are places on Earth that I've heard of where the walls are lit up with a green bioluminescent light type thing, but you can't see the source of the light. Maybe that's where it comes from. Pretty interesting, though. Why don't they come to the surface now that this is all over? Is it over? They come to the surface and they don't like what they see. I mean, that was my response to that too. As soon as I read it, like, yeah, it doesn't seem over to me. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 11. I hope it resonated with you and you enjoyed it. If so, hit that like button, subscribe, and if you want to buy the book, you can find a link for that in the description below. Hope to see you again for my next video, and take it easy.